Hi everyone! Today I have Harvard-trained nutritionist and a certified functional medicine practitioner, Tina, with me, and we're going to talk about meat. Meat, very nice subject.
Yeah, I mean, we get so many questions about what kind of diet people should be following. So are you vegan? Are you paleo? Are you following AIP? Are you on the keto diet? Are you on the low FODMAPs diet? And my experience as a functional medicine practitioner and doing what functional medicine is, we really focus on bio-individuality. And what that means is everybody's different. And so we don't advocate one dogma. We apply different methods depending on what the person needs. So today we're going to focus on meat and how important it is for some people to have meat in their diet, and what kind of meat, and how to eat it, and when to eat it, and with what to eat it, and all these kinds of different topics really get into the meat of things, no pun intended.
Great. Tina, a lot of questions that we get are about combinations, meat and grains, meat and vegetables, meat and fats, meat and everything else. Can you elaborate a bit more about what is the best combination for meat?
Sure. When we're talking about meat, we really want to make sure that we're absorbing what's happening with the meat. And with a lot of our patients, what we're seeing is that people have low levels of stomach acid. And stomach acid is really needed to shred down that protein and absorb the minerals from the meat that we're eating, including the protein. And so to make digestion easier on people, it's better to mix meat with vegetables and avoid mixing meat with starches like potatoes, like grains, and things that will interfere with that process of the stomach acid really tearing down that meat and absorbing the minerals from it.
Can you also tell us a little bit more about fermenting gut that sometimes could happen when you combine meats with lots of starches, lots of grains, and what happens afterwards?
Sure. Again, if you have poor digestion and you don't have enough stomach acid and you're mixing meat with a starch or grains, all these not so nice bacteria start to take all of that and start to ferment the sugars from the starches and from the grains. And you get issues like bloating and more flatulence and sometimes even pain and cramping. And so definitely to ease digestion, we want to make sure that we're decreasing the amount of processing that is done by the digestive tract.
You mean by separating meats and grains?
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you do want to eat grains, and for people that can eat grains, you can have grains with your vegetables. Just don't eat your meat with it. Or if you want to have meat, have your meat and have your salad or your vegetables with that and avoid the grains and the starches.
Fantastic. And what are the best meats? Because a lot of people now talk about some meats not being optimal for them. In your opinion, what are the best meats that we should be all eating, or whoever eats meat?
Yeah. Again, this is different for everybody. In general, we do want our meat to be grass-fed and pasture-raised. These are two different things. A lot of people kind of get these two terms intertwined. So grass-fed means that the animal is eating only grass, and also grass-finished, because a lot of the time before the animal goes off to slaughter, they can be given a lot of cornmeal and soy and things that we don't want
to fatten them up.
To fatten them up, yeah. So we want it to be grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised. And what that means is that they're allowed to graze in the pasture, eating grass and getting sun. Animals that have gotten sunlight have a lot higher levels of vitamin D and all the good vitamins that are in the fat, like vitamin A and vitamin E.
Absolutely.
So this is like the first thing to kind of look at in terms of what kind of meat we should be eating. The second thing to consider is that, in my experience, pork has not been the best kind of meat to be eating. They're a little bit higher in parasitic load, and even when you cook this kind of meat, you don't kill some of those parasites. So you can be exposing yourself to a few more parasites in that kind of meat. But again, if we're getting pork from an organic farm and you have a good relationship with the farmer and you can kind of gauge what kind of meat they are providing, pork can be a nice addition.
What is your opinion about the internal stuff like livers and how do you call this?
The offal.
Yes.
Which for some people is awful.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are now into this carnivore diets and using a lot of this type of meals in every meal and sometimes every day and 7 times a week. Tell us more about that.
Well, back in the day of the hunter-gatherer periods, when they slaughtered an animal, people would go for the offal first because it was the most nutrient dense. I mean, you're getting a lot of the vitamin A, the vitamin D, the vitamin E, a lot of these nutrients needed for healing. And so even when I counsel people on the autoimmune paleo protocol and we talk about an anti-inflammatory diet, I do suggest a lot of these patients have low iron. You know, it's a great way of getting better sources of iron, bioavailable iron. And so I tell them at least 3 to 4 times a week, have some sort of offal. You know, for people that are kind of disgusted with eating liver and stuff like that, you can actually have your butcher grind it up and mix it in with some ground beef, and you can make hamburgers or beef burgers from that. And so that you can have your liver and eat it too, as they say.
Very good. Yeah. What I wanted to add here is that it's very important that this type of meat, this type of protein is organic, because this is organ meat. So organs always process and filter and metabolize toxins. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think this is a very good point, yeah, to add. Another question that we get a lot is, what are the best meats here in Cyprus?
Well, here in Cyprus, the first thing I would definitely not get is beef. And the reason is cows need to be grazing and on grass. Where in Cyprus do we see that? We don't really see that. So
yeah, it's too hot. I think it's too hot.
So try avoiding beef as much as you can here in Cyprus. And always, this applies to anywhere in the world where you are. What is homegrown? What applies to your market around you? And here in Cyprus, lamb and goat are the top choices for that. So
and also pork, which we already mentioned, that is our least preference. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and also chicken, but again, organic chicken. Mm-hmm. That is, you know, sometimes when they're saying that it's free range, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good, because again, they could be feeding them this genetically modified feed. And so you want to make sure it's free range and organic.
When you go to a restaurant in Cyprus, what are the best dishes to order? Something Cypriot, something maybe local that would be advisable for our visiting guests?
Yeah. Definitely something local. So, you know, a lot of the popular things that we do in Cyprus is like a meze, and that can be dangerous. A meze means like bits and bobs of different kinds of dishes. Like the Spanish have the tapas, which is like bits and bobs of different kinds of dishes. This can be dangerous in the sense that you're eating...
Again, I'm making this again.
Yeah, so you're eating way too much at one go. But what you can definitely try here are all our fresh fruits and vegetables. So having a lot of vegetables in your dish are really tasty, especially in the summertime. You can literally smell a tomato and smell that cucumber and have a lot of these organic varieties of fresh fruits and vegetables. The other thing is, if you're going to have meat, to choose things like chicken or lamb or goat, like we talked about. Also, very fresh in Cyprus is the fish. So you can definitely fish. And I recently saw a talk here in Cyprus from a Harvard public school representative, and he was saying that the least toxic fish in Cyprus are the smaller ones.
Yes.
So choose the smaller ones because they don't harbor a lot of the mercury and things like this that the bigger ones do. So yeah, these are basically what we want to give. Also in Cyprus, for people that their gut is okay and can handle it, Mediterranean diet. So take advantage of the lentils and the legumes and the beans and these kinds of foods that are homegrown and are from Cyprus.
And delicious for those who, as you said, who can handle it. For those who cannot handle it, you might want to talk to Tina about how to handle it with the use of digestive enzymes.
Yes.
Yeah?
Very important.
Very good. And just a final question about meat. What is the dish that you would prefer to recommend as the first introduction to, let's say, regenerate and heal your gut? For those who cannot handle those heavy steaks and heavy, like kotsi type, you know, the goat in the oven. What is the first thing to recommend for those people?
Well, like we were talking about, always make digestion easier. So one of the first steps is making a soup or making a bone broth. And so when you're, like, for example, you cook a chicken, you eat the chicken, hold on to the bones, and then put it in some water, put your favorite veggies inside, your favorite herbs, and let it simmer on low for many, many, many hours. At least 8 hours is the optimal. I suggest doing this in a big bowl like this so that you can save it for later. It can be frozen, and you can have bone broth every morning to help with the lining of the gut and to help heal a leaky gut and all those things that go on with bad digestion.
Fantastic. I'm salivating. Thank you very much, Tina. This was a very informative interview. If you guys have further questions, please contact us and we will be very happy to elaborate on more suggestions for your meat intake and how to combine it better with your foods. Thank you, guys.